Hi everyone, welcome to Erica's Joyful Oven. Today guys, I'm going to make some paratha or bus-up shots. I'm going to start with 4 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. Into this, I'm going to add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And there you go. I'm also going to add in 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. I get asked quite a lot about salt, and to be honest, this is going to taste really good without salt, so I'm really not going to add any if I don't need it. So I'm going to just get my hands in there and I'm going to mix this together just until this sugar and the baking powder has mixed in. So if you guys want a shortened version of the bus-up shot, you guys can check it out on Facebook, facebook.com/joyfuloven, and also at youtube.com/joyfuloven. Now, once this is mixed in, I'm going to go ahead and add in my warm milk. So I have 1 3/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons. And into my milk, I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. You can also use lemon juice. I guess I started doing this because I realized that the dough is really similar to a pastry dough. It has the butter, the flour, and so on. So adding in the milk and then adding that little bit of vinegar helps to make it really flaky. It keeps it really silky, and it's not gonna get hard and dry after a couple hours. So okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my milk and my vinegar that has been mixed in. And because it's measured out exactly, it is okay to add all at once. There we go. And using my hands, I'm gonna mix this in. Now at this point, guys, once it comes together, it's really soft. I don't want to overwork the dough, so I tend to leave it alone for a few minutes. And another tip, guys, when you're making it, don't use carnation milk or evaporated milk because it tends to make this a little bit tough. You want to use a full cream milk that's a little bit lighter. So it's going to give you some really delicate layers and it's not going to be too heavy. It's not going to dry out as quickly. You can also use all water. That's going to be fine as well. Or you can use a mix of full cream milk and water. But definitely, again, not evaporated milk for this recipe. Now at this point, I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of vegetable oil into my hands. And I'm going to continue kneading the dough. It is going to be a little bit sticky because it's a really soft dough. And also, when the warm milk interacts with the baking powder, it's going to make it really nice and puffy. If you think it's a little bit too sticky, I think it's just a little bit sticky. I'm going to add in a little touch of dry flour, just about 2 teaspoons. So someone is saying that they add powder milk, or can they add powder milk? So I've seen bus-up shot recipes or paratha recipes made with powder milk. I've just never used powder milk in it, but you can definitely, if you wanted to, add in just maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of powder milk. Or if you wanted to use powder milk in substitute for the full cream milk, I'm sure that's going to be fine. So you're just going to take the powder milk, mix 1 3/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of water, and you're going to use that as your liquid. So at this point, it's just very slightly sticky, and I don't want to keep adding extra flour because that's going to change the texture of it. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil into my hands, and I'm going to use that from this point to knead the flour. And I'm just going to knead until it gets nice and smooth. Okay, so once this has a nice smooth surface, you all can see that nice surface there. It's still quite soft, and that is perfect. I am going to add just a bit of oil at the top of it, and I'm going to punch it down a little bit. This is going to soften it and it's going to keep it nice and moist. You guys can see this is really soft to touch, and it's really a nice tender dough. Now I want to make sure that this dough stays really nice and moist. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking a paper towel. You can use a kitchen towel as well. I just like the paper towels because I know that it's nice and clean. I've wet it a little bit so it's nice and moist, and I'm going to keep this over the dough, and that's going to make sure that the dough doesn't dry out. And what you can also do is add a little piece of plastic wrap on top of the paper towel, and that's going to keep in all of the moisture to keep the dough nice and soft. So there we go. So this is going to stay in a nice cool place. It doesn't have to be warm. It's just really going to soak a little bit for maybe 20 minutes. If you can make it into an hour, into a half hour, that's going to be fine as well. So I'm going to set this aside, and I have some here that has already been soaking. You can see the paper towel is still moist. Now you can divide this into 4 pieces or 6 pieces depending on how large of a towel you're using. So I'm just going to do 6 pieces. Doesn't have to be exact, it's fine. There we go. So I'm going to leave these that I'm not working with covered with a paper towel just to make sure that it doesn't dry out. So you guys can see those in here, it's separated. Again, covered with the wet paper towel. And now I know that some folks, they like to roll this into a bowl, but because I don't want to overwork the dough, I am not going to do that. I'm just going to place this onto the surface like so and press it into a circle. Also save some time as well. And at this point, I want to get this as thinly as I can, and that's just going to give me some more layers that you can just pull apart those silky soft layers. Almost there. Okay, so this is quite thin. You can actually see the lines through it, and that's just perfect. So into a plate or something nice and flat, I am going to add 4 tablespoons of cookeen or any vegetable shortening, and I'm also going to add 6 tablespoons of butter. You can use unsalted if you want. You can use margarine for this recipe, and that's going to be just fine. And I'm going to place that into the bowl, or the place I should say, and I'm going to mix this together just until it's well combined. Once this is mixed in together, I like to just kind of roughly divide it into 6 pieces, just because I have 6 pieces of dough. And I'm going to add 1 portion into the flour. And I typically use my hands, but because it's on camera, I'm just going to use a spatula. So Rhonda said she tried the recipe yesterday and it was perfect, and that was really awesome. So yesterday, guys, I had a little family get together and I made buttershot, and it was a huge hit. I actually made somewhere around 16 or 17, and it was all just perfect. So I'm just going to spread this butter around evenly. Now the cookeen is going to help make this really nice and soft. I know I've had some people asking as well, can they use all butter instead? And you can. Can you use ghee instead? And you can as well. But I just really like the mixture of the cookeen in here to make it nice and soft. So on top of here, I'm going to add just about 1 or 2 teaspoons of dried flour. A light dusting evenly over the rolled dough. And I'm going to cut from the center outward on one side. There we go. There. And I'm going to fold it over into a nice cone shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. And you want to press on one side and just press and twist. And as you twist, it's going to hold it together to form a seam. On this side as well, you're going to hold the top and you're just going to press it in to form a seam on the inside as well. And there you go. So this is one layer. It's perfect. It's nice and firm. There's a little bit of air bubbles on the inside, and that's going to be just fine. Before I place this back into a pan, I like to add just a little bit of oil around the surface of it. That's just gonna make sure that it's nice and that it stays nice and it doesn't dry out. So I'm gonna do one more just to show you guys, and then I do have some that's already soaking, and I'm gonna show you guys how to cook it. I always like to make extra because it's so easy to do, but it does take some time. So I like to add a little bit of extra oil on some of them when I make it. And then I add it into a freezer safe bag. You can keep this at this stage in the freezer and it stays for days, guys. It stays for weeks. It's gonna stay fresh. You want to thaw it at least 2 hours room temperature or maybe overnight in the refrigerator. And I mean, this is really easy and really simple, right? So I'm gonna set these things aside and I'm gonna show you guys now how to cook the paratha. I'm gonna move across here when I'm ready, but I'm just gonna set my nice big towel to heat up on a medium heat is just fine. Here are the lawyers that I've prepared about an hour ago. Now you can again have this prepared in advance. Now again, you all can see that when I've finished making all of the lawyers, I want to keep the moisture in. So I've covered this with a moist paper towel again, and then with plastic wrap to keep in the moisture. I'm going to take one of these lawyers out and it's really soft, nice and soft. And once it soaks, it's going to be really nice to work with. It's going to be really easy to work with. So I'm setting this aside, making sure that it's well covered until I'm ready to cook. And onto my flour surface, I'm going to add in some dried flour. Now I like to press this into a circle. That just makes it easier to keep in a circle shape. So I'm going to roll this out, not too thinly, guys. I'm adding just enough dried flour so that it doesn't stick, but not so much that it leaves you with this big crust of dried flour on top of it. So I'm going to roll this out. And as I roll, guys, I'm kind of twisting and turning just to keep it in a nice circle shape. But of course, as we cook this and it's going to be busted up on the towel, it doesn't need to be in a circle. It just needs to be delicious, and this recipe gives you just that. Okay, so this is just thin enough. And guys, when you're rolling roti, this is a really neat trick that I've learned from the very first time that I've made roti. You focus on the ends, because if you focus on the middle, you're going to get a really thin middle, but the ends are going to be really hard. So you always focus on getting the ends nice and thin, and the middle is just going to fall in to the same thickness. So there we go, a nice circle. And of course, you make this according to the size of the towel. So I'm going to invite you guys over to the stove now, and I'm going to have some help from Mr. Joyful Oven. Okay, so the tower is nice and almost hot. So into a nice enamel plate, I have just about a tablespoon of cookeen or any vegetable shortening, and I'm going to add that onto the tower. I like to add it here just so that it's nice and melted. And then once this melts, I'm going to add in my half cup of vegetable oil into here. Just an average. And that's it. The first thing I'm going to do before I put the roti into the towel is add a little light brushing of oil onto the towel. Now guys, my stove tends to light really, really high. So at some point while I'm making buttercup, I always turn the stove off. So that's just my stove. But you want to cook this on a really low temperature so that it doesn't get those brown spots on it too much. A little brown spots is perfect. So I'm going to add this here on one side, and immediately as this goes onto the towel, I'm going to add another brushing of this vegetable oil mixture on top. So not too much to make it oily, but just enough to mostly coat it. There we go. I'm going to give this about maybe 20 seconds more. So when it's time to flip, guys, I am just going to slide there we go, slide the dabbler underneath and flip. And it has a really nice color. Can you guys see that color? Come a little bit closer. There we go. All right. So as it cooks, it is going to swell as those layers separate and get nice and flaky. I do like to press down sometimes, make sure that all of the ends get nice and swollen, and then that way I know that the ends aren't going to be really hard and chewy. It's going to be nice and soft. So I'm almost ready. Once this is nicely cooked, I'm going to bust up the roti. So this is how I like to do this. Now some people put it into a paper bag and they squish the paper bag around. That's one way to do it. And that's it. I don't like it too much beaten up, guys. I kind of like it whole so that when you're eating it, you can peel away those layers. And that's it. So this is my paratha roti. It's nice and flaky. You guys can see that nice texture. Look at that. Yeah. So I'm going to place this into the cooler, guys. And each time I make one, I'm going to wrap it immediately. And that's going to make sure that that nice heat is going to keep it really soft. It's not going to dry out. You can also store the leftovers wrapped in really into a freezer safe bag, wrapped in some roti paper, and that stays really well in the fridge as well, even after it's cooked in the freezer. After it's, what do you typically eat paratha roti or basa shot with? And so here's a good answer. It's curry. So I have some curry duck, I have some curry chicken, and I also have some anchor that I've made. This is what Trinis like to eat basa shots of paratha with. You can also eat it with stews. It's also really good. And I'm gonna take my roti out of the cooler. So this is my basa shot. It's really nice and soft. It's nice and flaky. And this is what I love about this, that you can just peel away all of these layers after layers after. Isn't that cool, guys? Okay, so I'm gonna give this a taste now. Look at that. I'm so excited. Okay, let's go. A nice soft piece of roti. Nice to that. There you go. And I'm gonna go for the duck. So a nice little piece of duck. Don't want any bone in there. And some anchor, of course. That's so good. It's so soft. I'm gonna try the chicken next. So good. You wanna try some? It's so good. It's perfect. It's so good. So again, I hope you guys try this recipe. It is so soft and flaky. It's silky. Again, after it's cooked, you want to keep it nicely wrapped, and it is going to stay soft for the next day as well. I've had excellent reviews for that. Have a wonderful day, guys. Have a wonderful week. I will be praying for you all, cheering you guys on. I really, really appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys checking in, keeping in touch. That means a lot to me. So when you guys try the recipes as well and you let me know what you think of it, that always means a lot. All the best, guys. Bye.